Well, this is the 1907 Tohunga Suppression Act, page 1, and I'm going to read it, in a colonial voice. This public bill originated in the House of Representatives and, having this day passed as now printed, is transmitted to the Legislative Council for its concurrence. House of Representatives, 13th of August, 1907. Honourable Mr. Carroll, Tohunga Suppression. A bill entitled an act to suppress Tohungas, whereas designing persons, commonly known as Tohungas, practice on the superstition and credulity of the Maori people by pretending to possess supernatural powers in the treatment and cure of disease, the foretelling of future events and otherwise, and thereby induce the Maoris to neglect their proper occupations and gather into meetings where their substance is consumed and their minds are unsettled to the injury of themselves and to the evil example of the Maori people generally. It is therefore enacted by the General Assembly of New Zealand and Parliament assembled, and by the authority of the same as follows. 1. This Act may be cited as the Tohunga Suppression Act, 1907. Every person who is or pretends to be a Tohunga, or who gathers Maoris around him by practicing on their superstition and credulity, or who misleads or attempts to mislead any Maori by professing or pretending to possess supernatural powers in the treatment or cure of any disease, or in the foretelling of future events, or otherwise, is liable, in summary conviction before a magistrate or 2 justices, to a fine not exceeding £25, or to imprisonment for a period not exceeding 6 months in the case of the first offence, or to imprisonment for a period not exceeding 12 months in the case of the second or any subsequent offence against this Act. No prosecution or for an offence against this Act shall be commenced without the consent of the native minister first having been obtained. The Governor may, from time to time, by order and council gazetted, make such regulations as he thinks fit to enable the intention of this Act to be carried out. Subsection 5 of Section 16 of the Maori Councils Act, 1900, and all regulations made under that subsection are hereby repealed. By authority, John Mackay, Government Printer, Wellington, 1907. Here I am buying needle drugs. Look at these. Look how many more options there are for buying this, or for buying weed. And look at all the advertising you see in this video. Imagine if you could just do this kind of thing again.
If you really want to hear the answer, listen. If you really want to hear the answer, listen. If you really want to hear the answer, listen. If you really want to hear the answer, listen. If you really want to hear the answer, listen. If you really want to hear the answer, listen.
Disguises of sewerage erupting in our valley, and the alleyways are scuzzy if you live in town. Oh, the prices are steep. They're building apartments on indigenous grave sites, while the rave sites keep on killing kids with phony drugs, 'cause the basalts are cheap. They're shipwrecked on islands in the Southeast Pacific, be specific, cause where we stand is who we really are. We're blaming each other in Aotearoa, though we know our problems can't be solved till we stake our claim, and we share in the blame. We're safer from COVID than the rest of the planet, so we fan attention away from our racial woes as we laugh at the states. We're scapegoating migrants for structural issues, and our tissues keep on weeping for the royal fam while our government waits. We're shipwrecked our islands in the Southeast Pacific, to be specific, cause where we stand is who we really are. We're blaming each other in Fortress New Zealand, though we know our problems can't be solved till we stake our claim, and we share on the blame. They silence reporters via public relations, while the nation's inching closer to a civil war over white versus right. They placate dissenters by messaging fairness, but the bare necessities elude all the working class who'll put up a fight. We're shipwrecked on islands in the Southeast Pacific, to be specific, cause where we stand is who we really are. We're straining each other in Aotearoa, though we know our problems can't be solved till we stake our claim, and we share on the blame. There's geysers of sewerage erupting in Aro,
I go and get this facts?
Let's suppose that this tree here is a metaphor for a statue. It's a statue of a guy called John Plummer. He was one of the fathers of Wellington, and the real statue is in Lambton Quay. This guy blocked them from putting in sewers for 14 years with his relentless letters to the editor. And now, our sewers are exploding all over the place. So, why do we have a statue to this guy?
Elsewhere.
This
David
is the guy
Seymour.
who opposes minimum wage increases.
Chloe.
test match lineup. I'd missed 3 games in a row and found out that I only knew half the names of the players. Still, I was glad they were playing. I woke up, it was nearly over, in touch for the final phase. Guess there are days you never see coming, do you? Still, I was glad they were playing. We talked through the post-game wrap-up, and the commentators a joke. I wonder what bloke made him so famous. Then there's the shit that he's saying. Shit that he's saying. Thank God for the Polynesian winger and those fabulous Canterbury locks, 'cause the Springboks had better loose forwards. Boy, he was glad they were playing. Glad they were playing. I flashed back to the days in high school when we learned apartheid was bad, and that my dad had been too chicken to protest. Yes, he was glad they were playing. I wondered why we idolize All Blacks. Is it simply from cultural cringe, or liking to whinge about winning? Still, seems we're glad they are playing. Are these the ugly thoughts they leave us by taking us to rugby as kids, masking bids and wars of oppression? Alas, I was glad they were playing.
name's James Haskell. I was a professional rugby player up until about 4 months ago. I am now a DJ slash MMA fighter slash public speaker slash CBD oil owner. So I'm a bit like Dick Van Dyke from Mary Poppins. One day I'm a chimney sweep, next day I'm a single man band, and then I'm a road painter. So I've got kind of lots of bits and pieces going on really.
Hey, I'm Ben Franks. I've been a professional athlete, or professional rugby player for coming on my 16th season. I played in New Zealand with New Zealand All Blacks, and now I'm with Northampton Saints.
Well, I think interestingly enough, you know, Ben is somebody that is kind of on the edge of or cutting edge of wanting to search out the best kind of products. You know, very well read, very well researched on kind of what he does. So he recommended it to me. My wife had talked about CBD oil for quite a while. I think, look, it's very difficult for us to be over-enthusiastic about CBD oil because of compliance. And so I think rightly, you know, you can't, you know, the world of fake news and kind of things, you don't want to oversell things. But I think for both of us, and you know, he's got a slightly deeper story than I have, that, you know, it's been a real good accessory to my training routine, to my daily life. I've found, you know, any number of benefits in it. I think if people are eager, they can Google what CBD oil does. But for me, I think it's been a really important part, and I've had, you know, incredible benefits from it personally. And I think it's something that is a great substitute for you know, kind of things in sport, you know, painkillers, etc. I find it really, really useful. So that's kind of my story, and you know, you kind of got a bit of a deeper one really in terms of your benefits you found.
Yeah, definitely. I come across it probably 3 years ago, recovering from an injury, and I got a recommendation from a friend. You should try CBD oil, and I had no idea what it was. So I just started researching it, and at the time I was keen to really give anything sort of new a go, and just right from the start I just had amazing results, which is quite unique in sport, because you're always looking for these 1%ers which, you know, are good for you, but you might not feel the benefits straight away. But with CBD oil I felt the benefits straight away, and I was sort of amazed we hadn't heard about it sooner. The thing with sport is you're always sort of getting bombarded with the latest and greatest things. This is going to make you a champion, blah, blah, blah. So anything in sport takes time to get through, especially a product like CBD oil, but people are very aware of it again just within the last 12 months, or probably even 2 years ago when I first started taking it, and I told someone, they looked at me like I was strange. Like, they're like, "You're taking that?" As into now, I wouldn't say it's common, but there's definitely a number of people exploring, and I've heard some great things, some good results.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things where there's still a lot of fear around hearing cannabis. There's a lot of confusion. People associate it with you know, hippies and getting high and everything else. They don't realise it's a completely different product. So in sporting world, you know, the primary concern for any professional athletes is, you know, will I pass the drugs test? Will it affect me and everything else? But interestingly enough, the appetite of people to find a substitute to help with the rigours of sport, to deal with the issues on your body and stuff that people come across, it's you know, it's like wildfire. It's like Ben came in talking about it. I heard it. I was thinking, you know, we're in a similar sort of ages in career-wise. I've aged a little bit better, but you know, it's a good moisturising regime, and I found that you know, my ears pricked up, and then other boys, and suddenly it's like, it spreads like wildfire. But because it's isn't commonly accepted yet, especially in that world by governing bodies, etc. Well, sorry, the drug testing people say it's fine, but there's a company called Informed Sport that, you know, they're, in my mind, they're being a bit laissez-faire about their attitude towards it. You know, they need to start looking in and testing it to give it that seal of approval. But boys are getting onto it, and that's the thing. You know, around the change room, I would say, you know, 60-70% of lads are doing it. People are reaching out to me all the time now. I've launched it. They want to know. They want to deal with it. They want to test it out. And I think it's something that is going to only get bigger and bigger. And I think the more that the compliance comes in, and it stops being like the Wild West and what people can say and how they do things, and clarity around 0 THC, 0.002 TH, all this kind of stuff that's a bit of confusion. I think it will only grow and build.
In sport, it's sort of an industry that things happen fast, but also some things happen quite slow, and I think when you're in terms of sort of like supplementation, they're very wary, and they will take their time. So it definitely is a win. CBD's, it was taken off the ban list, so it's a step in the right direction. And I think as their knowledge increases and the standards of the CBD oil industry get better, well, then you'll see it become more mainstream. And usually what happens in sports flows on to everyone else. So, the faster we can get that into sports, I think it'll help the whole industry as a whole.
Yeah, so our product line, the story behind our product line is an interesting one, really. Everybody at the moment, if you've got a social media profile, reaches out, will endorse my product. If we send you a product, will you mention our product, everything else? I'm like, no. A, because I only endorse stuff that I'm interested in, and B, a lot of companies trying to do ambush marketing and everything else. There's only so much free stuff that you can have. So, Ben is kind of the pioneer behind it, really. Even though I'm probably the gobbier one of the two of us, he's someone that linked with Clifton from Cytec. He's the one that found Provocan, the original oil that we were using. It's the best outlet, or it was best outlet until Impact's come along, and it was kind of a Premier League oil in comparison to most of the other stuff, and the reviews were fantastic. And we wanted to find a product that we could trust, that we could have. So Ben started having a chat with Clifton from Cytec. Cytec, brilliant company. They again are kind of the premier in CBD oil. They are based out of Israel. A large majority of the research is done in Israel around CBD oil, around the benefits of it. They've reinvested money from the money they made from Provocan into research. So they're in good hand. They're not quick buck companies. They're not some of these people who've covered everything in marijuana leaves who are talking about all this kind of nonsense. It's kind of a much higher level. And Ben came back after having a conversation and said, "Oh, do you want to do some discount codes, stuff we can do?" I said, no, listen, if you and I are going to do this and we found the benefits, we believe in it, we need to go and meet this guy, and we want to do our own product range. We want to create something that we believe in, that is going to be great for our audience, that we're going to actually use. And that's how Impact was born. And we've been at this for quite a while, looking at, testing out the different products, trying the different oils. We've already got 2 or 3 products that haven't even hit the market yet that we're developing. We've added a balm, which was, for Impact Sport was important, and a balm with arnica even more so. Everyone knows the benefits of arnica, and everyone knows the benefits of CBD oil. And trying to unify it. I think people are lobbing CBD oil in everything at the moment, but we want to use it around dealing with Impact Sport, hence the Impact company, dealing with the benefits associated with what we do, and we created it really. And Ben's kind of, I'm sort of the front of house kind of guy, and Ben for us has been someone that is like, is constantly kind of refining the product, looking into it, does the research, knows all about that, and together we've kind of created a nice synergy with the top company in Cytec, and we've had a slow launch because we wanted to test the market out. We wanted to have a soft launch develop. We've got some big events and stuff coming up that we're going to do, where we're going to really give people the sense of the personality of Impact. You can trust us. In a business of like lots of white noise, where do you begin? Well, our heritage and our foundation is with an established company who deliver a top product, and you can trust us to deliver the purest, the best of what we do. And there's no nonsense, no frills, there's no bullshit, there's no overclaims. There's exactly what it says on the tin and what it will deliver. And we're seeing that with a lot of people. And look, this show's fantastic, everything's fantastic, but stuff's going to get tightened up. What you can and can't say, and like anything in the world of fake news, people don't do any research. They see things, they believe things, they take things. We're both athletes. We trust in the business. We work with the best to deliver the best, and that's what we've got.
We sort of cut our teeth with sport because that's what we know, but sport's quite a broad thing, isn't it? Like this is not just for professional athletes, but we recommend this could help them a lot, but just anyone who's active. We know CBD oil can help everyone, but we're sort of going for the active people, and you call them like your weekend warriors. people who've got their hobby sports for the weekends, or it might be the people who just like to train a couple of times throughout the week. We're trying to cover a wide range of people.
I think, look, you know, if people want to find out more about our products, then head over to impactsports.uk. We've got, you know, extensive range of products, as we said. We've got Impact Sports CBD on Instagram. They can follow us. You know, Ben and I are on Instagram as well. You know, I think, look, this is never growing business. I think, you know, you should never take something for the sake of taking it. I think people need to do a bit of research, understand A, why they would want to take it, B, what benefits they're going to have, and, you know, if you want to dabble and put your toe in the water, then look no further than Impact.
National Organisation for the Reform of Marijuana Laws.
Oh, okay.
I'm Ken Morgan. Nice to meet you.
Well, what's happening?
I've been leading a tour around the country.
Oh, yeah.
We left Auckland on the 14th of March.
Yep.
And we went to 42 towns in 42 days.
Yep.
And we announced publicly in each town that we were going to smoke cannabis at 4:20 each afternoon.
Whatever.
There was no opposition.
No.
It's time to change the law.
Okay, we'll take it into consideration. See you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Our congregation of sisters, which is the only New Zealand-born congregation of religious women, was founded at Jerusalem, Hiruharama, up the Wanganui River.
The story of the Sisters of Compassion and their relationship with the Wanganui River stretches back more than a century. Established in 1892, they became a highly respected religious order known for nursing and charitable works under the direction of its founder, Mother Mary Joseph Suzanne Aubert, also known by her Māori name, Mere Hohepa. Aubert died in 1926 and is in line to be canonised by the Pope as a saint of the Roman Catholic Church, but her story is relatively unknown.
She's not a Mother Teresa, for example, but she's equal to Mother Teresa. Mother Teresa stayed here once, by the way, just saying. But, you know, we could put thousands of dollars, thousands upon thousands into making her better known. But we have to consider, is that the best use of our resources?
Aubert was educated in healthcare, as well as chemistry, botany and pharmacy, and used these skills to care for the underprivileged, establishing children's homes, nursing homes and hospitals throughout Oceania. Centuries later, the Sisters of Compassion are declining in numbers, but Aubert's work continues. This year, for example, the Wellington Soup Kitchen celebrated its 120th anniversary.
We Sisters of Compassion, we are an endangered species. What's not endangered is compassion. And we've got so many co-workers, friends of compassion, benefactors and volunteers, particularly at the Soup Kitchen. And we're only as good as we are today, so to speak, because of all these co-workers and companions along the way.
Headquarters for the Sisters is in Wellington's Island Bay, on the site of the original Home of Compassion Hospital, where Aubert is buried. Here, her extraordinary life and legacy are celebrated.
She came from France in the footsteps, really, of Bishop Pompallier, who was the Bishop of New Zealand at the time, a Frenchman. She heard him speaking in can you imagine, in a little village hall where she lived, and she knew she was going to the Antipodes. He was looking for recruits. So she came out without her parents knowing. She was coming to New Zealand on a whaling ship. Imagine that. Smelly old thing. And to Auckland. And her reason for coming was for education for young Maori girls. That's what he was looking for. And he formed a little community of sisters. They had a boarding school for Maori girls. Bishop Pompallier eventually moved back to France. Catholic Church was in great debt and he had to downsize a little. So the little order was disestablished and she went to Hawke's Bay with the Maris priests as what you call a third order.
Aubert eventually came to Whanganui with two Josephite sisters to resurrect the mission at the remote settlement of Jerusalem.
Now she went by Waka, of course, up the Wanganui River, 3 days it took to get there. And Suzanne was like a laywoman, you might say. Now I don't know what happened, but those sisters only stayed about 14 months. They helped re-establish education was their focus, the school. But they left. A few other women sort of took an interest in Suzanne and supported her endeavours up there.
Aubert had formed strong bonds with the local women, but faced opposition from the Catholic Church, who decided the mission at Jerusalem was to be disestablished. She fought for it to be saved, and it remains to this day as a retreat managed by the Sisters of Compassion in partnership with Tangata Whenua.
So she went down to Wellington to see Bishop Redwood, and she was heartbroken that she'd need to leave. And he said, no, you won't. You will be my sisters, and you're destined to compassionate the sorrows of all people. You will be called Daughters of Our Lady of Compassion. So we became a congregation.
Fluent in te reo, she used her medical training and newfound knowledge of runawa, traditional Māori medicine, to make remedies renowned for their healing power. The sales supported the mission.
People were sending infants, particularly up to her to care for, who were sick, because she just had a way with children and healing. But a few kids died, and she didn't have the resources, medical resources. So she came to Wellington thinking that she would build a hospital for children. She had turned 6 in her pocket.
Although not technically miracles, her ability to get things done was tremendous. She built 2 hospitals, established a nursing school and countless other enterprises for social welfare.
The real needs of the time was unemployment, and men were considered breadwinners. And of course, they were searching for work, go home with an empty belly and cross and angry, and their wives got hiding perhaps, or whatever. So she thought, if the men, this is how I understand it, if the men had a full belly, at least they'd go home in a happier frame of mind. So the soup kitchen was established 120 years ago this year. And then she wanted to help support women who were having children without the support of a partner, let alone a husband, because they were needing to give their kids away because they had no means of support. And so she established the first creche.
She saw the need and she did her best to fulfil the need. But when the need was no longer there, she moved on to something else, to where the need was. Susan Obeah had the amazing ability to be friends with everybody. And she had friends with Governor Generals, she was friends with politicians, she was friends with the ordinary people. It didn't matter who they were. She saw God in people.
Remnants of the cherry orchard and gardens planted by Obeah and the sisters still remain at Hiruharama, as does the poetry that arrived with James K. Baxter in 1969, another part of the rich history of Jerusalem.
68, we went for 3 years when I was a young sister. I loved it. And of course then the next year Baxter had arrived. And so I found that very exciting at the time. Despite all the stuff, I love the Baxter poetry of Jerusalem, that era. I could relate to it so well. Just as you go up the drive on the left, in that field on the left, there's a house. He lived there initially, and then everything got out of hand and all these people started arriving. So they moved up to what we used to call the big house, up the back of our place, up a little track up the back. And then I'd go up for extended retreat, 6 days, 10 days from time to time. And then the year 2000, I went and lived there permanently for 10 years.
During Sister Cosgrove's stay, the documentary How Far Is Heaven was made and released in 2012. It looks at a more modern Jerusalem.
Because it's a small community, at a major level they don't need us, but they do appreciate having us here. Does that make sense?
A force to be reckoned with, Obeah has become a role model for New Zealanders, many now studying her history at school.
She lobbied a lot for people who didn't know their rights. Like she went to there was a woman suffering from tuberculosis at a time when nothing very much was being done. So she went to the Minister of Health. She was told to wait, and she was kept waiting and waiting. So the secretary went into the minister's office and said, Suzanne Obeah is here and she's getting angry. Suzanne followed her into the office and she said, Suzanne Obeah is not getting angry, she is angry. And if something is not done soon for this lady, I'm going to report it, I'm going straight to the Dominion Post to have it reported in the next day's edition. So something was done. That's when they started the TB hospital at the back of the Wellington Hospital there.
The slow process of her canonisation began in 2010. Once verified, it's likely the Whanganui River Road to Jerusalem, as the birthplace of the Compassion Sisters, would become New Zealand's first pilgrim trail. Georgie Ormond, Local Focus.
Marilyn Waring. I often hear about you every single time that I am introduced at an event as the youngest person in New Zealand's Parliament since you, 42 years ago.
I'm very sorry. I apologise. Yeah, no one should have to wear that,
Well, there's a lot. Funnily enough, that's kind of often where the contrast ends. It's just that 42 years ago, you were my age when you entered Parliament. How were you received by the local constituents as a woman putting herself forward to be elected?
There was this wonderful pass the parcel sort of thing. It was a big rural electorate, and I make no secret of the fact I'm terrifically book learned, but frankly, in terms of life, I know bugger all really. And so they go to teach me.
Yep.
So I start right up in the north, way beyond Whangapai, and week by week or over periods of days.
Work your way down.
I work my way down through Te Akau, Ruakiwi, Huntly, Rotawara, you know, Raglan, etc. You just keep going all the way. I learned plenty.
Yeah.
I had some extraordinary adventures. It was a night in Te Akau when I went to bed after a big meeting in the local hall, and as I went to sleep I could hear them arguing, the husband and wife, and a couple of hours later I was bolt upright in my bed because a gun went off in the room next door. And I sat bolt upright and thought, shit, he's shot her, you see. And then after a little while I could hear them both talking and some sort of animal screamy noise. But no one said a word. And in the morning when I went to breakfast, they said, oh, I hope it didn't disturb you too much in the evening, Marilyn. So possum came down the chimney.
So real life.
Yeah, totally, real Raglan.
Going from having no campaigning experience to all of a sudden being on the road and, you know, being out there talking to people and essentially trying to sell yourself, it was a really weird experience for me. What was the transition like for you? As far as, I mean, just to flesh it out, my experience, right, and we were both around the same age, was when you're, and this is the kind of anecdote that I use frequently, when you're a kid and you look up at adults, you think that they have a clue and know the meaning of life, and, you know, then you grow up and realise nobody knows what the hell is going on. It was the same for me becoming a politician. You just realise people are better at fronting up with a facade. So, you know, connecting with people and trying to speak to large crowds of people was quite a bizarre experience going from zero to that position.
I asked lots of questions of people all the time. So they were telling me about Raglan, you know, and I'd hear something here and I could use it 2 nights later.
Yeah.
Right, so I was using the material people gave me, stories they told me. I loved learning from stories because I could remember them really well. And I was a candidate for a party with a policy, which is really different from what you went through, Chloe. So probably there were questions coming sometimes when you know, thought, my God, I've never thought of that before. You know?
There's that too, but then I think as well, going into the position when I did sign up to the Greens, and, you know, not just being a young woman, but also being from a smaller party and having to justify yourself consistently in the space, it always made me reflect on how so many people before me, whether they were from the Greens or whether they were women or younger women in Parliament, had been fighting for validity and justification for people like myself to exist in that space. So that's one of the big questions that I've got for you. I mean, you've got the picture here on the front of the book.
The photo there is taken at the first meeting of the government caucus after the 1978 general election. So I'm the only woman in that caucus for the next 3 years. In fact, from 1975 to 1981, I'm the only woman MP in the North Island.
So how were you received by your caucus colleagues?
I didn't spend time with many of my colleagues. A lot of boys elbowing each other for room and sound space and all of that kind of thing. Not a greatly cerebral activity. I didn't endear myself to them in the caucus situation.
Why is that? Because you had an opinion? Or?
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
Yeah. And generally they didn't share it. Something like, what is it, 2/3 of the first cabinet had all served in the Second World War. Everybody was governing for yesterday. These guys just had no idea about what the world was about. Dear George Gear used to say to me, dear, you were just always so far ahead of us. And I used to say to him, George, I was just current. So it was like, yeah, I was totally a different gender, totally a different era.
Yeah.
There weren't all that many people in the caucus with degrees.
Yeah.
People didn't like evidence very much.
I can tell you that still exists.
Is that still the case?
Oh yeah, I mean there's more degrees now per head of parliament, but yeah, there's definitely evidence is anathema to politics. So yeah, and there's also then, you know, you add in the ingredients of hyper-partisanship in a soundbite media environment, which is becoming ever more difficult in an overly saturated media environment where everybody's competing for space and we have social media.
Yeah, I think that's really true. That's like in the past, and when I was in Parliament, I could give a speech and I could expect, well, 6 to 8 paragraphs, totally to be published as part of the speech. Yeah, look, you know.
Published where?
In newspapers. Yeah, truly. Yeah, absolutely.
A speech published in the...
Yes, sometimes in some newspapers, the whole speech, if I was controversial enough. So I didn't have to contend with soundbite cliches like you do. I didn't have to contend with the madness of, you know, trying to work out what sensational 15 seconds can I put together for even to be heard. You see, which you've got. I never had to contend with that.
That's my big challenge, right? Because I end up being bridged on the way into the house, and I end up being asked a question about something controversial, whether it's drug law reform or mental health or education or whatever. And my immediate response is to go through, here's the history of this issue, and here's where I stand, and here's the rationale and logic as to why that is. And frequently my sound bites are never used because they're not sound bites. They're far too waffly.
Yeah.
So,
well, and also, of course, because the speed has become the name of the game, there's no investigative journalism anymore either. Well, there was in my day.
I have kind of come to the conclusion that I'm not really interested in just being in Parliament for the sake of being in Parliament, but I do think looking at colleagues and looking at how the structure of the place indoctrinates you, the incentive structure is entirely perverse. You know, people do absolutely come in believing something, but when you're faced with the opportunity to create transformative change on the one hand, which is often complicated and nuanced, and you have to explain it, versus keeping your head down and thinking that you can just continue to tweak around the edges and do the incrementalism, people will opt for that one because they know that, you know, that is the pathway that to date has secured them a continuing position in power. So,
but you know, you
so
have a whole life.
I know, I do.
Yeah, but it is, and it's very, very difficult to conjure with other people just playing safe all the time. You know, it's a bit like the climate catastrophe. Right, and who's prepared to really front up to how dreadful it is, you know, and what has to be done yesterday, and there's quite a bit of tiptoeing around all of that that I can see.
I mean, and there's the reality of, as you say, evidence-based politics, and then actually the politics side of it, and communicating it not just to the general public, so that you create an environment that's conducive to putting pressure on the politicians who disagree for sake of disagreeing, but also bringing the other politicians onto your team so you can just get stuff done. One of the most frustrating things to me is operating in such an inherently colonial, adversarial environment where people are only concerned about winning or being right. There's no real concern palpably that I can feel on a day-to-day basis to do the right thing.
But Chloe, this is also about, it's really interesting because this is something that really came to me in the book. It's really unhealthy to have to get up every morning to go to work to fight. It's really unhealthy for everybody. You know, that whole atmosphere of that pervading.
So how did you survive?
Well, I'm not sure. You have to finish the book and find out if you really think I did. And I think people have to understand that it doesn't matter which party we're in, there are some bottom lines, you know, that are bigger than me or the party or anything else. It's just too bad.
Definitely. Yeah, but I mean, it's also about finding that balance where, and this has been a real challenge for me, where there's only so much, particularly when you are in the swing of it. I mean, you can totally write a book about it 40 years after the fact, but when you're in the swing of it, finding that balance of honesty versus maintaining confidentiality of, you know, obviously discussions that you're having behind the scenes, and having people be certain and feel safe and secure in your integrity, you know, whilst you're kind of walking that line and fighting those battles and putting out those fires behind the scenes, whilst also sharing as much as you possibly can, but not quite everything.
I think it's really hard. I've watched you over, you know, some of these issues, and the public expectation that you'll just somehow or other behave in a way that assists their anger. Right. Without understanding what's going on. I watched Mike Minogue being subject to all kinds of slurs, you know, because he didn't behave this way on the Official Secrets Act, or he didn't behave this way on the Security Intelligence legislation. But all the time, he was mining the obligation from Muldoon that there would be freedom of information, right? But he had to wear the outside, sell out, don't live up to your own principles, all that kind of stuff. And when, you know, it's just fine if you're a loud trot, you can just pop off and make all the noise you like, but it doesn't really serve, you know, what constructive contribution you're trying to make that they can never see. And the trade-offs you're making, not just for 2019, but for some time later.
If you could have one last conversation with Muldoon, what would you say?
I really don't know that I'd have anything to say to him. I had very little to say to him in the 8.5 years I had to work with him, so nothing much at all.
I like that.
I wouldn't waste my breath.
Still rolling though.
But cool, this is my song.
Flies follow fly so far from me. Flies follow fly that I'm longing to see. Flies follow fly in autumn gold. Flies follow fly away in the cold. When you leave me without the sun, it feels like I'm without anyone. I want to listen and hear your song, but you leave me waiting so very long. Flies follow fly so far from me. Flies follow fly that I'm longing to see. Flies follow fly, I glimpse your wing. Flies follow fly, can I hear you sing? Fearing your reasons, not knowing the truth. I think that you'll leave me because I'm uncouth. But it's just the seasons changing your way. That's why you leave a roundabout way. Flies follow fly, come back for the spring. Flies follow fly and start to sing. Flies follow fly, lighten my day. Flies follow fly, that's all I can say. Flies follow fly, come back for the spring. Flies follow fly and start to sing. Flies follow fly, lighten my day. Flies follow fly, that's all I can say. Flies follow fly, lighten my day. Flies follow fly, that's all I can say.